Kara, I'm curious. I haven't been following the Sarah launch really closely. Um, is there any sort of like general guidelines around it as far as like income qualification or what have you?
Yeah, so with the SARA funding, clients need to be at 80% of area median income or under. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. However, I have the link to the Mishta Sarah website prepared to copy and paste into the chat for you guys so that you can go and take a look for yourselves. The applications are on there as well if you want to take a look at them. And then, of course, their situation has to be somehow tied back to COVID-19. So whether that be an increase in expenses, a loss of income, there's several different ways that they can tie their situation back to COVID. Um, and that's really the gist of it. I'll definitely copy and paste the Sarah link in the chat so that you guys can take a look for yourselves and learn more about the program.
Thank you. And I just looked up real quick. Area median income for a household of one looks like it's just about $55,000. So that's exceptionally higher than a lot of the income qualifications for other programs.
Yes,
Thanks.
and yes, and just to point out, Moon, really quickly, when we were doing the eviction diversion program, only 2% of clients in the entire state were between that 80 and 100% range for that program. So we anticipate that most of the folks that we're going to be working with will actually fall within that 50% and under range. So most people who are seeking assistance should be able to income qualify for this program. That's what we anticipate.
That's great. And is there a specific allocation that Washtenaw County has received, or is it just general statewide funding?
I don't know the allocation that Washtenaw County received. I can tell you that the state of Michigan received close to 600 million out of the 25 billion that was allocated for rental assistance nationwide. But I don't know the exact amount that the county is getting.
That's fine. I was just curious. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thanks so much, Kara. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will drop my contact information in the chat as well. So if anyone ever has any questions about Sarah, Hawk, anything housing related, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always available.
Thanks, Kara.
Thanks,
So
everyone.
so up next, we've got Allison Austin from Washtenaw Literacy, who will be providing a program overview.
Hi, everybody. This is Allison from Washtenaw Literacy. I am the program manager. I'm going to attempt to share my screen, but I have to admit that I am not well versed in Teams. So I have a little slideshow for us. It is long, so I'm not going to spend much time on any particular slide, but you have the slides that you can reference. So up front is my contact information, and I am easiest to reach by email. I'm going to cover essentially three things for you today: our mission, who we serve, and what we've been doing in the pandemic. So to start with, our mission is believing that literacy is the foundation for a sustainable community. We provide literacy support free of charge to adults through a network of trained tutors. And that first phrase is really important to us because that's our purpose. We really want to make sure that Washtenaw County is a place that can be sustained, that is a community that will thrive. And we believe that literacy is a huge part of that. So our core values, starting right up front with the fact that literacy is a right. We believe in literacy as being part of the social justice movement, as being part of human rights, and therefore is necessary and is a cornerstone for achieving equity in our communities. To that end, we've basically got three values that we put forward: passion, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and integrity. And we try to live out those values in all of the work that we do from top to bottom. Washtenaw Literacy is Michigan's oldest and largest literacy agency, serving adults, and we serve anyone who is 16 and up that live, work, or volunteer in Washtenaw County. So all local and all free to any adult in our community. Statistically, about 1 in 6 Washtenaw County residents need help with reading, writing, math, digital literacy, financial literacy, health literacy, English language learning. This means that they're functioning at an 8th grade or lower ability at this time. All of our programming, as mentioned, is without cost to any of our learners. Everything is free to them and delivered by trained and supervised, supported volunteer tutors who are also members of our community and therefore can give a really sort of neighborly, personable, connected service to all of the learners. We serve around 2,000 of our neighbors annually. And in fact, this year is our 50th anniversary year. So we're pretty excited about that. There aren't a lot of organizations around who have been serving the community for that long. And we're proud of the fact that we continue to be here and continue to help our community thrive. Just to give you a few of the numbers, so who do we serve? In 2018-2019, we served 1,481. In 2019-2020, we served 1,191. Obviously, that is the time period when COVID took over all of our lives, right? On March 13th, we suspended all of our in-person programming, which means our number essentially went to 0 in that moment. By March 15th, we had about 60 learners up and running with their tutors already. And then we have continued to work back on that number, providing new training, new supports, new opportunities for tutors and learners to engage in a virtual environment and a virtual experience. 82% of our basic literacy learners reside in the most economically segregated zip codes in Washtenaw County. And also a large percentage, almost 50%, are in the areas that have been identified as the lowest opportunity sections of 48197. 70% of our learners are female and 68% are parents. Of those 68%, over 50% are single parents, trying to manage a household on their own and raise children and struggling with the kinds of literacy skills that you and I take for granted every day. 88% of our learners are below the poverty line. 80% are unemployed or underemployed. So while they might, for instance, with regard to English language learners, they might have a degree in their home country, but because of their limited language or their limited reading and writing skills, they are not able to find employment in the United States that match what you might expect given their education. 60% of our learners possess a high school diploma, and yet they're reading at those low literacy levels. So they've got a high school diploma and they can't read the diploma. Our average basic literacy learner comes in reading at approximately a 3rd grade reading level. On average, the statistics say that it takes about 100 hours of intensive tutoring for an adult to move forward a grade level. Our research locally through WCC and the jail and some of our other programming is showing slightly better gains than that, particularly in math and writing skills. So we're very proud of what we've been able to achieve in terms of really moving adults forward in their skills through the tutoring that we're able to provide. And I mentioned those volunteers, right? We had 514 volunteers in this last year, providing over 50,000 hours of service during that year. I'm incredibly proud of our volunteers, the service that they give, the dedication that they've shown, particularly in a difficult year, and using sort of the independent sector's metric on volunteer hours. That means that we're supplying and returning to the community about 1.4 million in services. So what have we done sort of in the pandemic? How has this been working for us? It was a challenge. I freely admit on that March 13th, it was a rough day, trying to think how we were going to move forward and how we were going to keep our tutors and learners engaged. Our focus was on response, resilience, and recovery. So we kind of started with that response aspect, right? And that means that health literacy became our first priority. We started looking at what materials can we get out to our tutors and learners? What information do they need? How can we present it in plain language? What materials can we give them to help them understand what's going on? Because certainly everybody had a lot of anxiety around that time. One of the programs that we developed was Wash, Wipe, Cover, which was shared nationally and received a great deal of recognition from ProLiteracy, which is a national literacy advocacy organization. And along with the materials, we provided a great deal of volunteer training and opportunities for volunteers to really get up to speed on how to effectively use the materials with learners so that the learners were able to stay safe and also thrive during that time. Of course, by March 15th, right, our concern was digital literacy. How are we going to get these tutors and learners online? How are we going to get everybody matched up and working together on some sort of digital platform? And that meant offering, again, lots more training and lots of one-on-one office hours, if you will, sort of private opportunities to connect and figure out and help tutors and learners understand platforms like Zoom or Google Meets, WhatsApp, whatever the learners wanted to use. And realizing that our population, these folks that we're serving, these adults, because of their limited skills, also have limitations often in their financial lives and their personal lives, also have limitations in terms of their device availability or their access to things like Wi-Fi. And so we had to be creative sometimes, and that meant spending a lot of time working with tutors to help them sort of shift their paradigm from this in-person one-on-one tutoring to tutoring that might just happen over a landline because that learner had no access to anything that was going to be platform or internet based. And so now our programming is really running the gamut from tutors that are working with learners over a landline and they're sending through the post office materials that they can share together, all the way to tutors and learners that are using all of the functions of a platform like Zoom to have a very sort of immersive tutor learner experience, even though it is still virtual. We wanted to make sure that we were able to serve those lowest level learners and those who really had significant disabilities or even equity challenges. And so our goal, and our tutors have completely bought into this, is to really ask the learner, what works for you? What are you comfortable with? And to default to the comfort and ability of that learner, rather than expecting the learner to jump through hoops and learn a platform that we have predetermined. So that means our initial conversations with learners include lots of information about what they are comfortable with, what they do have available to them in terms of devices, and what's going to work best for them, and then finding a tutor that's willing to match that need. Throughout, we didn't want to lose our focus on family literacy. We have a program called LIFT, Learning as a Family Thing. And in this time, we have expanded LIFT to include school-age children. Previous to that, it was only preschool kids and families with preschools that were eligible for LIFT. But we now have expanded that out, recognizing that parents were really struggling, if they were low skilled, to really connect with the schools and the homework and all of the digital expectations that the families were experiencing from the full school system. So we're able to support a lot of families in getting onto the technology that they needed, which included giving away a number of laptops and devices. And for those of you that are in the know, the school system did a great job in Washtenaw County, of course, in having a program where parents could get a device, a laptop, if they didn't have one and their child was in need. What we found with our learners, unfortunately, is the school system had this great idea, right? And was so willing and came so far to help these families. And yet what we were hearing from families is that they were refusing the free laptop that was provided by the school because they were worried about things like whether or not the school would be able to spy on them if it was the school's laptop, or whether or not when that laptop was turned back in, would the school be able to tell what emails they had written or what websites they had visited. And there were all sorts of fears. Real or not, it doesn't matter. They were afraid and they were worried about this. And so we found ways that we could come in and provide laptops that then, because they weren't connected to the schools, the parents were more willing to take them. And again, we made sure to meet with the parents, actually get them connected, show them how to find the toward. We recognize that workforce is really going to be the next step for a lot of these folks. They will be needing to return to a workforce that might look different. There will be kind of an overwhelming demand on us, at least that's what we've seen historically. There will be an overwhelming demand on us as people do try to switch careers, find new jobs, upskill for those family sustaining wages. And that means that we have to be ready to respond and find those ways that we can really serve folks as they're trying to return to work. So that's my spiel. Happy to take questions. Happy to have you call me or email me. We also are happy to come and present at other organizations. happy to talk with you about ways that you can try to serve or better serve maybe the low literate clients that you already have, or how we could partner with you to provide tutoring and support to those clients in your midst that might need literacy support to be successful. So I'll stop sharing at that. And ask if you have any questions.
Thanks so much, Allison.
You're
Wonderful.
welcome. Our pleasure.
All right. All right. Next, our next presentation is by Renald Jean Louise over at Ingham County Health Department, who will be speaking about the Breast and Cervical Cancer Control Navigation Program.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Just want to quickly say thank you for the opportunity to allow me to present about the breast and cervical program here at Ingham County Health Department. I have a little presentation, very short here, that I would like to share with you all. So give me 1 second as I pull that up, and let's see if I can work the. All right. Here. I'm gonna try to. All right, can y'all see that?
Yes.
All right. So again, so my name is Renald Jean Lewis, and I am the Prevention Programs Coordinator at Ingham County Health Department. And with that, one of the programs that I oversee is our Breast and Cervical Cancer Control Navigation Program. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the program, more so focused on the program's eligibility requirement and services that are offered to the women who enroll in our program. So the first thing I want to talk about is basically the purpose of the program. And the purpose of the program is to identify low-income, uninsured, underinsured women and give them the opportunity to access timely breast and cervical cancer control screening or diagnostics. So again, the focus is on helping women who need help, who have barriers or who may have a reason why not to get these services, especially if it's due to financial reason. So again, the purpose is to assist those women in need to receive breast and cervical services. With the program, I always say it's very, very simple and easy to qualify, to be eligible for the program. The age, 21 to 64. We look at their insurance status. Either they are uninsured or underinsured. And what underinsured mean, there's no actual dollar amount. We ask them a simple question. Will any of, like, let's say they have a copay, for example, we ask them, would that copay or does your deductible, would that prevent you from seeking these services? And if they say yes, then we would mark them down as being underinsured, because our focus is to eliminate any barrier that may exist for these individuals. So again, insurance we're looking for those women who are underinsured or uninsured. And then the next thing is family income. And that's basically taking into account, the household income and how many individuals are in that household. So again, this program, we can go up to 250% of the federal poverty guideline, which is a lot higher than most other programs. And then the last thing here is, their status, as a U.S. citizen or not. Again, so what we see here, we have, if they can be a current Michigan resident, they can be a migrant worker, farm worker, non-documented resident, and if they're living in any of those neighboring border state. So again, So with that, all that means is if they're living in one of those bordering state and they're saying, you know what, I will receive the services here in Michigan at one of the providing agencies, and I will continue and finish the services again if they have to go from a screening, to diagnostic to treatment. So that right there is very, very simple when it comes to just checking to see if the women are eligible for the program. And so what we do, we call them or they call us, and I'll go into the paperwork a little later. But yes, that's the very simple program eligibility requirements. The next thing, again, just talking about the federal income guideline, this gives you just like an overview on how much every year this is updated. And that number get a little higher and higher, which is of course is better for the women. So it just shows you on the left side, family size, and then in that middle you see 250% of poverty, and that gives you how much the max amount before, depending on family size, if they would qualify via by income or whatnot. And let's say she's a household of one, just herself, and she makes $32,300. She would not qualify, because she's over that income guideline. However, we often say before we just tell her she's not qualified, we often ask them additional questions, because again, our job is to eliminate any barrier. So we ask them follow-up question, to try to get them underneath that 32,200 if she's a household of one. So we might ask her about other expenses that she may have had, maybe she's gone to the doctor before, had to pay for these other things. So, and then we take that into account, we do our math and to see, okay, what, based on what you shared, the additional information, this would bring your income below the 32,200. So then you would be able to qualify. So most of the time when I talk to my staff or I talk to providers or other agencies who do the online or on-site enrollment, I always tell them, if a woman happens to be over the income, please send them to us and we will do some additional follow-up, ask them some additional follow-up questions to try to get them underneath that. So the next slide here is the services that are available. So we have, the program is screening services, diagnostic services, and then we have treatment. So what you see in front of you here is basically women, again, like I mentioned, women who are 21 to 64. However, for women who are, so it's only for the breast part of it, we're looking more so for women who are 40 to 64. However, if a woman is younger than 40, she can only enroll in the program if she's coming to us with like for like a diagnostic, service. If she's seen her primary care provider and they say, okay, well, we see something that's abnormal, we're going to send you for further, screening or testing, then she will be able to enroll in the program. So she would not, a person who is 21, between the ages of 21 to 40, for the breast part of it, she would not be able to enroll to get like a regular, routine mammogram screening. However, those women who are 40 through 64, they are eligible to receive the mammogram screening and all that other diagnostic services. So that's one of the things that I do try to share with others to make sure they understand that guideline. But again, we can serve those women who are 21 to 40, between the ages of 21 and 40. However, they would have to be referred to us for diagnostic services. The cervical part of it, again, is those women who are 21 to 64. We do Pap tests, we do HPV tests, we do the co-testing and stuff like that. So with the screening, with the cervical screening, if their tests come back normal, then they're not due in our program for another 3 years. If they do the co-testing, then we can see them again in our program, every 5 years. For the mammogram part of it, that's a annual, yearly thing. So again, so every year, if we're speaking more so about the mammogram, those receiving like a screening mammogram, they would have to re-enroll in the program every year to continue to qualify for the program. Again, we do different things from regular screening to, diagnostic. That can be a MRI, a biopsy, colposcopy, all these different things to help the women. And again, as you're looking here, we talk about some additional diagnostic services. Again, talks about, diagnostic mammogram, ultrasound, MRI. So these are all the services, excuse me, that a woman will be eligible to receive in our program. And again, all of this would be at no cost to the individual. We would cover the cost. The provider would bill us as a program, and then we will pay the provider directly. So we do have an agreement with many of our providers that says you cannot and shall not directly bill any of our participants for services that they receive. So that way, we can take that pressure off of them of having to worry about, receiving, a bill. And even if they do receive a bill, because of the agreement that we have with our different providers, it'll be it's something that I can easily, have that conversation with and let the provider know that according to our agreement, you basically would have to write this off. We asked them in a polite way, like, hey, based on our agreement, you were not supposed to bill this individual. So we asking you to write this off. And oftentimes they do write it off. So that's not an issue there. And the last thing here on this slide is cancer treatment. And that's the focus of the program. We really want to find those women who may have cancer, and to provide them with the treatment sooner rather than later. So if a woman happens to have cancer, she's being diagnosed with cancer, that's breast cancer, cervical cancer, what we do, we would switch her to our Medicaid Treatment Act. So then she will be under Medicaid, and then that Medicaid will cover all of her treatment services for everything. And at the same time, she will still be able to use that Medicaid for any other regular doctor's appointment, doctor visits. The one thing with that, because if you are on Medicaid, you have to be a U.S. citizen. So for those individuals who are not a U.S. citizen, or maybe a non-documented resident, they would not be able to be put on Medicaid for this. But we would still help them. We would still try to connect them with other resources, other agencies, to ensure that they are not forgotten about and they do receive this the treatment that they need. Let's see. All right, so the next thing we're going to go into, I'm just going to show you a couple of our forms. Like I said before, the forms for enrollment is very, very simple. Ask some basic questions, and hopefully that y'all can see the image is not too poorly. But what you are looking at now is our basic enrollment form. It's very simple. Asks basic information about phone number, address, things like that. It talks about their background, asks things of education, family size, income, and again, so we use that to basically determine if they're eligible or whatnot. And even if a woman does not have a social security number, that is fine. We create basically like a ID number for her, so that when it comes to billing or identifying her, we can use that ID number as opposed to a social security number. And again, that may be more relevant to those individuals who may be migrant workers or non-documented individuals who may not have a social security number. The next form here is our risk assessment form. And that's basically, we want to determine the risk level of this individual. So we ask about family history. Have they ever had, any known history of breast cancer, cervical cancer? So with that helps us, determine, how quickly we need to move on, or what services, that the individual would need right away. So that's just a way to ensure that we get this individual seen as soon as possible, and to make sure that they're receiving, the appropriate diagnostic services. So those two forms there, very straightforward, very simple. And then the next form is what we basically ask them to sign as a program participant. We say, okay, well, this is just an understanding of what you're agreeing to, and we, of course, need their permission. At the same time, that would also allow us to communicate with the clinic and ask them for this particular individual, for this individual's results, because we do need their results to enter that into our database. To ensure that when we do get billed, that we are able to, process the payment. So in the last slide, basically here is with our program, with the Ingham County Health Department Breast and Cervical Program, we serve women in 7 counties, and those 7 counties are what you see in front of you. So basically what I try to do, I reach out to different providers, health clinics, or whoever, and I inform them about our program, and I try to, establish an agreement, because we always say the more places that these women have access to, the better it is for them. So we don't want to, be a barrier on where they can go to seek these services. So these are the 7 counties that we, Ingham County Health Department, oversee for the breast and cervical program. And like I said, what we do, the same thing as I'm doing with y'all today. I basically have a providers meeting with the with some of the doctors, or the clinic manager or hospital manager, and basically talk to them about the benefit of enrolling in the program, so that when they do enroll in the program, we can send women who live in Clinton, who live in Ingham, Ionia, Gratiot, Washtenaw, Livingston, to different places where they don't need to travel a whole hour and a half away. So so that was basically the last slide that I just wanted to talk about. Like I said, I just want to give some brief information about the program. And this is basically my contact number, where I work, email address, and that phone number is actually my work, my office phone number, which we've been working from home since March of last year. But I can share my cell phone number if anybody would like to contact me, and I can share that later or put that in the chat. So if there's any questions, please feel free to ask. If anybody wanted to see those forms, in a clearer format, I do have those up and ready to share, but y'all let me know and I can show that if y'all would like. And that's all I have.
Thanks so much. I've got a question. What are some of the local Washington County sites? Packard Health is one, right?
Yeah, so we have, give me 1 second. So that would be Academic, and I don't know if they go by other names, but we got the that Von Voigtlander Clinic out of University of Michigan. We got the Academic OBGYN, which is part of St. Joseph, and like you said, Packard Health. I believe that's what's coming to mind right now. But again, for what I try to do, and I can tell you right now, I've probably reached out to hundreds of providers, just so that we can increase the number of providers in the program, to ensure that women have access to providers, as opposed to being limited and not feeling comfortable going to one place as opposed to another. So those are 3 that come off the top of my head right now.
Thank you.
And I would like to 1 second. The other thing, if you don't mind, if I can share my screen just one more. Maybe I don't need to share my screen, but I can just announce that. And one thing that we try to do with the women, we say, 1, the services that you'll be receiving is at no cost to you. At the same time, to try to get them motivated, or get them to do it, we also say, we provide an incentive. So we say, if you go and get these services, we'll give you a $20 gift card. If you go get both a breast and cervical, service, then we'll provide you with a $40 gift card. So again, we do provide some incentives to try to get the women to go get these services. And for me, I think it's a benefit. 1, they'll get the services for free, and also we kind of like, we're paying them to go get these services. So that's one thing I wanted to also share with everybody.
Yvette, did you have a question? Your hand's raised right now.
Yeah, I did. Is a person automatically enrolled into this program, provided that they're with U of M or St. Joe's or Packard Health, or is this something that needs to be requested?
Good question. Yeah, so they would have to enroll in the program. So they would have to fill out the form. So they may be a patient of, like you said, Packard Health, U of M. At the same time, we would have to enroll them, and those were those forms that I showed you that, in my mind, I think they're very straightforward, very simple. So yeah, they would have to enroll in the program before they become an actual participant, even if they are seen at some of those sites that are part of our program.
Okay, once again, thank you, Ronald. This was a wonderful, helpful presentation. Thank you for your services.
Thank you.
All right, then our next presenter is from the Washington Area Council for Children, Michelle Walters.
Good afternoon. Let me bring this up. Thank you for having me today. Before I get started, I want everyone to kind of close their eyes for a second and think for a minute of a child that you care a lot about. It could be a child of your own, it could be a niece or a nephew, a neighbor kid, somebody that you feel really connected to, that you care about, brings a smile to your face when you think of them. And I want you to picture that child in your mind for a minute. While we go through some of what I share with you today, I want you to have that child's kind of face and name kind of in front of you as we talk through what we do here at Washtenaw Area Council for Children. Keep that in the forefront of your minds. Can you guys see this okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Again, I just thank you so much for this opportunity to share this information with you. I know that there's so many great and amazing things that are happening out in the community, and the people that came before me have been amazing, and you all do such amazing work out in the community. So this slide, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an import here just 2 years ago. As of next week, I moved here from Iowa. But I did go to U of M about 15 years ago. I was raised in Iowa, though, and Michigan is definitely my home. My family has really settled in here, and we've been very welcomed. And these are just a few things about myself. We love to be outside and hike and fish and all those things. So Michigan's been a great place for us to settle in. The mission of WACC is to really promote the child safety and well-being and prevent child maltreatment, abuse, and neglect through educational services and programs to children, parents, and community members, as well as youth serving professionals throughout Washtenaw County. We have been in the community for just a little over, 46 years, I think. We started in 1975. We were brought together by a group of really concerned citizens. They wanted to address some of the interdisciplinary challenges that were around children getting the services they needed, the supports that were necessary to decrease the harm that was happening to children. The maltreatment rates, the neglect rates were really high at that time, and the community just felt like they really needed to address this issue. In 1983, the Children's Trust Fund designated WACC as the entity or the agency within the community that would address primary child abuse prevention for the whole county. And as you can see, there's a few other noteworthy things there. In 1999, some of you may have seen the athletics department worked with WACC, and Marcia Dykstra, who was our program director at the time, she coordinated all of that and really put out the Shaken Baby Syndrome project, where we taught people, particularly men and fathers, about the importance around not shaking babies and the trauma that's associated with that. Last year, or in 19 and 20, we were able to serve over 12,000 individuals that are throughout the county through all of our services and programs. So Let me talk a little bit more about that. So I know that many of you are professionals in the community, if not all of you, but just as a recap around what child abuse really is, so we're speaking from the same space, it's really any act or failure to act by a parent or a caregiver that results in some sort of harm to the child, either actual or potential harm, can occur anywhere in which the child interacts with. And the most important bullet point there at the bottom is it is preventable, which is why we do the work that we do. Some stats around child abuse to kind of give us a picture of what it looks like in our communities. If we look at child abuse nationwide, on average, or around 5.04 children die each day as a result of abuse and neglect in the United States, and that number has gone up since 2018. There's approximately 656,000 children that have been identified as victims of abuse or neglect, and an estimated 1 in 7 children experienced abuse in the last year. That's 1 in 4 children have experienced abuse or neglect at some point in their lives. So just think about all the children that we come across, the families that we come across. 1 in 7 have experienced it in the last year, and 1 in 4 have experienced abuse or neglect at some point in their lives. There's a lot of obviously data and information that will be coming out that'll maybe paint a different picture for 2020, but for what we know right now, the numbers are kind of remaining about the same. We have a lot of resilience within our communities, and I do want to make sure we highlight that a little bit, and I'll talk about that later. In Washtenaw County specifically, in 2019, we had, if we think about it, you know, our most vulnerable populations are our youngest and our oldest, right? Because they're more just not as out there in the community. They're not in school yet, or you know, our older population may be a little bit more homebound and not out in the community. So ages 0 to 5 victims, we had approximately 286 children in 2019, and over 5,000 investigations were conducted for children aged 0 to 17, just in Washtenaw County alone. And most of the allegations, when we think about it, are for neglect or improper supervision. And I want you to really think about this. So I'm going to show you the next slide here in just a minute, but when we look at that third bullet point and we talk about confirmed victims or confirmed cases being in these 2 zip codes, I caution us about our narrative, because if you look at the 4th bullet point where it's neglect for improper supervision, what feeds that in our communities is economic status, or the economic security in which families have. If they don't have the finances to afford somebody to come take care of their kids, but yet they have to get to work or they have to go to the store or whatever, someone might call and say, well, this kid was left home alone. So I want us to really think about what that narrative tells us in our community around child abuse. And I know that we as an agency are working really hard to dive deeper into that, about what those numbers mean and what that story tells us about our community and how we need to change that and build the resilience within the communities, specifically in these 2 zip codes, so that we can build that resilience forward for people. So this is, unfortunately, we only have a 2018 slide for this. I didn't have the updated data from the Department of Public Health yet. But this kind of paints a picture, so you can see that of all of those calls that we receive throughout the county, the concentration there in the 2 zip codes right here, the 4819798 zip codes, we have so many, over 50% of the calls are coming from those 2 zip codes, or the reports are coming from those 2 zip codes. And if you look just around, there's hardly any coming from around the area. So I think that we really need to take a look at why that's the case and how we can work harder to change that direction of child abuse in our communities. This one is just a quick slide. Unfortunately, data from the national statistics haven't been updated on this since 2012. There's just some conversation around why they don't want to update it, but who knows why individuals want to update some things and not others. But nationwide, child abuse has substantial costs for us. If we look at this first one, 124 billion with a B is our annual nationwide cost of child abuse. That's about $1,400 per household, and just in Michigan alone, 1.8 billion. That's a lot of cost, even just in Washtenaw County. If we think about that, that's a lot of cost for us to think about in terms of child abuse and what we can do since it's 100% preventable. Oops. I just put this slide in here because the next couple of slides we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that contribute to child abuse, or the strengths or gaps for parents that exist in order for parents to feel like they can parent well or parent in a way that is best for their environments. Many of you are well aware of the ACEs study and the Kaiser Permanente and the CDC and the investigations that they did around child abuse and what happens and how it contributes to long-term health outcomes. And we have a lot of individuals in our community. I think it's even Promise Washtenaw, or Washtenaw Promise, I think. They do a lot of work in our community around ACEs and make sure that the information is getting out to people and how we can really build some resilience. And what I'm most excited about is this next slide, because ACEs is taking a broader approach and taking a look at positive childhood experiences, because we can't always focus on all the adversities that people experience and say, well, that's the end all be all and that's the picture that it paints for each one of us. We have to take a look at, well, what are the positive things? How do we build that resilience? Why is some adversities affect me differently than it affects some other people if we're even in the same environment? What are the other things that change that trajectory for me? Why is it that my positive supports have more lift or weight than other people's positive supports? And how does that help offset the negative experiences that people have? So I'm really excited to see that this data is coming forward. There's been some research out there, not a lot, but some, to help support the ACEs and then also expand upon it to include the positive experiences. I did put a link down there at the bottom. In my slideshow presentation, I have a link to the video, but at the bottom, I did put that website, so you can go there and read a little bit more about what these images are talking about, and also play just a quick video. I think it's like 6 or 7 minutes. And it goes through this whole scenario about resilience and more and less resilience and the weights and the scales and all of that stuff. So I encourage you all to go out there and check that out when we have more time. So what does WACC do then about all this? There's so much obviously that can be done or that should be done and could be done. We are so fortunate. Like I said, we've been around quite some time, and we've been very fortunate that we have so many amazing community partners, like many of you who are on this call today, from medical professionals and educators and all of the school districts, all of the community organizations that we partner with. It's just an amazing collaboration that we have so that we can provide all of this information to kids, to adults, to caregivers and other community youth serving professionals. So this here just provides you with a quick list of the services that we provide. And I'll go through them in a little bit more detail in just a second. But what I think I love most about our organization is that we provide such a broad spectrum that we really serve from infancy, preterm or pre-birth, all the way through our prenatal, all the way through adults. And so we're able to really capture all different aspects and points at which child abuse can occur. We're able to make sure that we're impacting each of those individuals throughout the lifespan and see how each one of those points of contact can really impact a person's trajectory for not becoming a statistic of child abuse. So let's dive right in here. In our Safe Sleep and Safe Baby program, we do provide education and outreach to parents and caregivers and professionals around safe sleep practices. Around 3,500 infants die each year from unsafe sleep environments and practices. These are obviously 100% preventable. Make sure babies are on their backs. Make sure that there's nothing in the playpen or the crib. We provide pack and play sleep sacks and baby books for anyone who needs a safe space for a baby to sleep. Encouraging parents to not co-sleep, thinking about what does that environment look like. We follow all of the APA's advice and guidance around safe sleep environments. We also have an amazing task force of medical professionals, caregivers, the child care network, other community groups that are in the area. We work on the task force where we try to do some publications and outreach and information sharing around safe sleep practices and how to encourage everyone to be a part of that conversation around making sure that babies are safe when they sleep. We also participate in community baby showers, and we educate not only parents and caregivers about shaken baby prevention programming and head traumas, but we also help educate medical professionals about how to talk to people and parents about shaken baby and what does it look like and how does it work and all of those things. So it's a very comprehensive program. Oh, I wanted to also mention here that in order to receive the pack and plays that are listed here, we just ask that the referral be made not a whole year in advance or like as a person just finds out that they're pregnant, but we do have a referral form, and we just encourage people to make the referral. Anyone can refer just a few months out so that Althea, our safe sleep coordinator, she can coordinate with the parents about doing the education with them. And then with the pack and plays, they have to have some sort of need. If they already have a safe space or they're anticipating getting a safe space like a crib or something for their baby to sleep, then we would encourage the family to save the pack and play for another one. They're so, they're hard to get a hold of and fund. So I just want to make sure that people know that we just really try to make sure that the family really needs it. And we also ask that the family they meet Medicaid guidelines, but they don't necessarily need to be receiving Medicaid, just meeting the guidelines. And if you have any questions just about any of that stuff, just reach out to me. I'll put my information at the end of the slides or at the end of the presentation and then in the chat box. Moving on to child sexual abuse, none of us likes to ever think or even imagine that this would ever happen to any child, but it does happen. And the reality is it happens way more often than we ever realize. The data that we're given actually probably is just a snapshot of the reality. Unfortunately, so many individuals, especially our young kiddos, do not report their abuse. And we know that many times in their adulthood, that's when it gets disclosed. So there's just a lot of times where the information is not shared, it's not reported, and but they still have the harmful effects of the child abuse afterwards. But we do offer the body safety training for 3-year-olds through 2nd grade. My daughter is in it right now. She's having a great time learning about how to keep her body safe and be the boss of her body, make good, healthy choices about whether it's being home by themselves safe. If they find a firearm, what do they do about that? Knives, fire, all of that. They talk about that the first week. And then the second week, they go deeper into how do they keep their whole body safe and protected and not allow people to touch or look at their private parts. It's not okay for that to happen. So how do they be their own advocates and make sure that if that is happening, that they share that story? Just a couple weeks ago, our coordinator shared with me that a child disclosed that I think she was 6, disclosed that her brother or a sibling was touching her inappropriately, and she didn't know that that was wrong until she was sitting in a BST class. She heard Courtney talking about it and presenting the information, and she went and she told her mom. She told somebody who was safe. So this program is really important and very valuable to these young kiddos because it is a hard topic to talk about and parents struggle with it, but we provide that age-appropriate information for those kids to learn about it. We Care Elementary is addressing more sexual abuse prevention work, really building up those life skills for those 3rd through 5th graders at a time in which they really are vulnerable and really trying to figure out their relationships and how things are working in the world and how their body works and how do they make good choices around those things. And then our Stewards of Children is for adults, any parents or youth serving professionals, coaches, anything. We provide some education that is evidence-based around child sexual abuse prevention, not only like what do you do if someone discloses to you, but how do you make sure that you've got the resources or the policies in place at your institutions that you're protecting kids and making sure that they're safe. We've had way too many stories of institutions and places having children sexually abused and nothing happening, or the policy not supporting the kids, and we need to make sure we're looking at those policies and making them safe for kids and protecting them. If kids disclose something to you, know what to do. Listen and believe the child and report it to the proper authorities. All right, moving on. I'm going to try to go faster here because I think I'm getting close out of time. Cyber safety and cyberbullying. Many of you have probably heard about this one. This is our most widely used program. We are in all of the school districts in this program, and we serve about usually over 10,000 kids a year. Last year, we just served over 5,000, even being online, which has been a huge influx this last even just couple of months as kids have been more online, but providing cyber safety, cyber security information, cyberbullying. We've got so much negative responses going on back and forth on various social media platforms. How do kids navigate that? Do they know the rules and laws around what happens when you do that, when you engage in a chat with somebody and it's negative or bullying? What happens in that situation? Are you at fault if you're a bystander? What do you do about that? We teach kids those skills about around that. Then we also have a longer sessions where there's 6 sessions of peer mentoring groups in the middle schools, and we talk with kids more in depth about what they can do and how they can be peer advocates. And then a couple of years ago, we added the Wellness and Resilience program, where it creates a connectedness between online use and social media and all of the things, and how that then impacts our mental health and mental wellness. And we really work a lot with making sure that kids understand that there's a huge stigma around mental health, and how do we get rid of that stigma? If I've got a friend or a peer who's really struggling, how do I help them? If I'm struggling, what do I do? How do I help myself? This has been a huge presentation this year. We've got a great partnership with NAMI to do some dual presentations, and that's been a phenomenal partnership collaboration with them, and we're just continuing to expand that more and more. It's been a huge need this year, especially as kids are more online, parents are more online. Everybody's not quite understanding, hey, what's going on with my brain? It's not acting the same as it once was, and what do I need to do about that? Let's see here. I think that's all about that one. And then the last couple of things here that I just want to share with you is we do offer professional development for the community that focuses and ties back to child abuse prevention. But we have our lunch and lecture series, which is typically around 4 of those sessions per year. And then we do an annual conference, usually in April. This year, we're just doing another lunch and lecture series at the end of April, actually April 23rd. And it's going to be from 12 to 2. And our theme this year has been rising from the dust, standing with resilience. And the topic on the 23rd will be more than mental health, where we have the Mom Power Group, Zero to Thrive, Fraternity of Fathers, and the WISD, who will be talking about the resources and supports that are available in the community to help support parents and caregivers and professionals in this work as we continue to rise beyond the dust, the COVID, all of the things that are going on, the racial climate that's happening, that has been happening for quite some time, and how we continue to build as a community around that. So look forward to that information getting out in the next day or two. We usually have social work CEUs, and this year we're starting to apply for sketch hours for educators, so please be aware that those are available. If you have any questions around any of that, or if you think that you'd ever like to present on a topic that's really important in your our community, and you think it might be impactful for our professionals, then reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you. All right. And just to kind of tie it all together, comprehensive prevention is really key to creating some lasting and sustaining change in our community. If we want to make sure that kids have healthy and thriving childhoods and continue into adulthood, we need to make sure we're providing all the things to all the kids. So I just put this in there to kind of reiterate that. What are some things that we can do about it? Obviously, if there's something that triggered your brain today, a statistic or something that stuck with you, share that one thing you learned today with the next person you talk with after this meeting today. Picture that child that I talked about in the beginning of the presentation. Who is that child to you? What does that mean to you? What does that child mean to you? And what are the things you can do to protect that kid? If, I know from my own kids and even my nephews and everyone in my life, my kiddos around us, I would put them in a bubble if I could. Knowing what I know about the things that can happen, I'd put them in a bubble. But I also know that that's not practical, that's not feasible. So what are the things that I can do to help build their resilience? Encourage our schools and community organizations to have the programs that we provide out into their platforms. Whatever it's like, we can provide things virtually, we can do them in person, it doesn't matter. I've done a lot of even just one-on-one BST with families so that they can have those conversations with their kids and have a deeper understanding of how to help their kids keep their bodies safe. There's lots of flexibility with what we do. Like us on Facebook, join our mailing list, attend legislative forums, make sure that child abuse prevention or prevention work is at the forefront of our minds when we're thinking about healthcare, when we're thinking about any of the things that we do, and make sure that we're talking about prevention and it's on our radar. Volunteer to be a presenter or helper in our office, board member, anything that we do. Obviously, donations are always helpful to organizations like any of the ones that I've presented today. And then one thing that's come up recently is just talking through hosting maybe a Paper Tigers or Resilience film showing in our community, whether it's through your organization and having just a staff training where we have a discussion about it. That's the two videos that talk about the ACEs study and the impact on the communities. So just having those conversations with your staff or with your community, your spheres of influence is what's really important and valuable. Again, I appreciate our time together today as we continue to provide and surround our kids with prevention. We really do uplift our communities. The presenter earlier was talking about that literacy is so important, and it is a foundation for our communities, and that's how we create the prevention work that we do, is making sure that people have the resources and tools that they need to build us forward. All right, so there's my information. If you have questions or need anything, would like to talk through anything, I'd be more than happy to meet with you or talk with you, even just do virtual coffee anytime. Let's see here if I can get this off of here. How do I stop sharing? Do you know how I stop sharing?
That's a good question.
Oh, did it stop? Did I? Okay. Oh, no, hold on. It just popped up. There it is. There we go. Did it stop?
It stopped.
Okay, good.
Michelle, this is Thomas Green, the supervisor for the Parent Partner Program here in Washtenaw and Genesee County. Would you put your contact information again in the chat? It went on too fast. I couldn't catch it all.
Worries. And it also, I think, got sent out when the presentations got sent out, but I will definitely put it in here.
Thank you.
And we are primarily working remotely. I am in the office most days, but if you need anything beyond this, let me know and I can send you my cell phone number. I did still keep my Iowa number in case that ever pops up for anybody.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. Wonderful work that WACC does to our community. All right. Last, I'm going to provide a brief update regarding funding. If someone can unmute themselves and tell me if you can see my screen.
Yep.
Yeah, great. So as far as funding, we still have some flexible funds, about $20,000. which is good. We'll be getting a new infusion of another 25,000 come April 1st. So that's good. We also have an additional about $40,000 of municipal specific funding in the city of Ann Arbor and Pittsfield Township still. And I would really encourage folks to, now that we've run out of CSBG dollars, to really look at the MSHDA-CERA website, because while it is COVID emergency rent assistance program, it also does help with utility assistance. Darlene, if you're still on the call, I was just thinking about the family we were discussing the other week. There's actually a tier of how much a household can get in CERA utility assistance, from $1,500 to $2,500 max. So are there any questions in regards to a funding update? All right. Hearing none. Thanks everybody for attending. We'll try to get the materials were already sent out to the email group earlier, but we'll get them on the members website in the next couple of days, in addition to the recording of this meeting. So with that, you're all welcome to go, and thanks for attending.
Hey Moon, it's Joy from Friends Indeed. Can I make a quick announcement?
Sure, go ahead.
Hi everybody, I just wanted to remind you that we are here still for utilities assistance, and that includes both DTE and water. We also wanted to remind everybody that we do have a lot of transportation options available to Washtenaw County community members, and that ranges from putting gas in vehicles to Lyft concierge service, and also car repair. So if you have a need, please get in touch with us. We also like to fill in the gaps. So if you can't find services elsewhere, please give us a call and we'll see what we can do to help.
Thanks.
Hey, Moon, this is Shantu. Real quick, I just wanted to let all of you know that in Wayne County, we just finished up this systems navigation book. It's called Finding Your Way, a roadmap to social systems and resources in Wayne County. I haven't sent out a formal announcement yet, but it is on our website. I sent it, somebody asked me, so I sent it to you. Once I had the formal announcement, I would send it to y'all to know. It's at the printer as well. It's hopefully something you'll find interesting and can be scaled and replicated for any county, because most of the stuff is federal, from a federal viewpoint, a state viewpoint, and then down to county. So just letting you know that's in the work, because I know we have a lot of crossover of agencies that work with clients in Washtenaw as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
All right. Any other agency updates, I guess? All right. Well, thanks everyone for attending, and I hope to see you all next month.
Thank you.